Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to my Keeping It Real podcast. I'm sorry I haven't been on very much lately, but we've had a lot going on around here. Last month I went to my family reunion, and each year it gets a little bit smaller because a lot of the older generation is either too sick to come or they have passed away. But over the last weekend, I enjoyed my weekend because it was nice. We got to watch the Ohio State game. And best of all, no political talk. We went out there to the Huntsman's Club in Coshocton, Ohio, and hung out with family. Sat out and enjoyed the warm weather and had fish from Lake Erie and fried hot dogs and cooked pork. So we had a good time, It was all about family. That's what it was all about. No political talk. We watched a good football game, and then we packed up and came home. But over the last few days, I've noticed a lot of weird things going on with Donald Trump. And that's the one thing I want to talk about today for about 10 or 15 minutes. If it looks like I'm in the bathroom, you're right. I'm kind of taking a moment here to finish up my business and sit here and talk to you guys. Over the last few weeks or so, we've been noticing a big change in Donald Trump. Not just from the swollen ankles to the bruised hands, but to his mental state. That's the main thing we need to talk about here, is his true physical and mental state here. Over the last 8 to 10 years, his vocabulary has gone way down into the toilet. I saw one of those press conferences here from, I think it was yesterday or the day before, where he looked like he couldn't even put together a coherent sentence. He was talking very low, like he wasn't even aware of what was going on. And it's really, really scary. And even people like Brian Tyler Cohen and some of these other media outlets on YouTube are stating that Trump's eyes look like they're almost swollen shut. And if they're not swollen shut, they look like they're going around in all different directions. And it's like he's not all there. And the sad thing is the GOP doesn't have the brass balls to own up to what's happening and say, yeah, Donald Trump is sick. He needs to leave the office of the White House right away. He needs medical help. He needs medical treatment. And it doesn't look good for Donald Trump. He does not look well. He looks like he's on the verge of dying. That's how bad this is. And I'm not mocking him in any way. I'm speaking as somebody who knew somebody that was older. My dad had bruises just like Donald Trump when he was on Coumadin. He had to take a lot of these medications. He had to take pills for iron. He had to take pills for blood pressure. He had to take other pills for other various ailments that he had. My dad had a fucking shoebox full. And the bruises that you see on his hands, I think Donald Trump is on some sort of blood thinner, and it's causing him to have bruises. Any little bump, he can get a bruise. My dad went through that, and my mother did too. They lived with that for like 5 years before they died. But if you want to know the truth, I don't think Donald Trump is going to make it those 5 years. He might not even make it through the rest of this year. Some of the things that have been happening to him lately really make me question the fitness of our presidential candidate. The guy is 79. I think he'll be 80 here this year, but I don't know. But his mental decline is very, very sharp. He cannot put together a coherent sentence. He doesn't speak up very loud anymore. I call it like a sundown period. You know, if he's out there with those choppers that they have for the president, you wouldn't know that he had a cognitive problem. But you get him in front of a camera, you see how slow he's getting. The GOP is either blind or too stupid to see that our current president is very, very ill. He disappears for a day at a time. He doesn't even message anybody. He doesn't talk to anybody when he's not in public. And he's never been that way. He's always been the one guy to stir up some sort of controversy. We all know that for a fact. Sure, we see some tweets on his stupid Truth Social, but who's really typing those messages? Is it him or is it his handlers? I'm willing to bet that his handlers are running things on Truth Social, because he's talking very slow and he looks like he's half asleep. You know, he's not well. To me, you know, he needs to see a doctor. He needs to be in a special care facility. And I know it has to be wearing on the family. Excuse me. I didn't mean to do that. But it's just me passing gas. I'm not going to blow up here. But, yeah. Donald Trump is going down a steep hill now. You know, go back through 40 years of his life here, you know. I think everybody from Robin Leach to people at Entertainment Tonight and even my local news has talked about it. NBC4 in Columbus has talked to Donald Trump. A young lady, or I shouldn't say young lady, a lady named Colleen Marshall from WCMH4 here in Columbus, Ohio, interviewed Donald Trump. And I'm willing to bet that if you go back through the last several years of Donald's life, you'll see his vocabulary slowly go downhill, and it isn't pretty. I think he either has Alzheimer's or dementia. He cannot put together a coherent sentence. Some of the things he says is outlandish. He acts like he's paranoid. And people need to wake up and smell the coffee that the President of the United States is very, very ill and he needs medical help. I'm not making a joke here. It's 100% real. He is not well. He needs to get to a doctor. He needs to be checked out. Another thing I want to be talking about is Melania, his wife. You know, people know her as the trophy wife to Donald Trump. She rarely shows up to any of his events. She showed up to a few overseas junkets and was at the 9/11 memorial, where we saw what looked like Donald Trump suffering from the effects of a stroke. But I've heard that there is trouble in the marriage of Donald Trump and Melania. I saw a video where they were fighting aboard Air Force One. You couldn't hear what they were saying, but she looked mad as hell, and he was arguing back and forth with her, tit for tat. You know, and it's not the first time they've probably been caught in public arguing. He was at some big get-together where he walked off the stage to his wife, and she looked angry, and she looked like she was yelling at him. So yeah, there is trouble in Trump land. I want to hear some honest conversation. Do you think that members of our government, Democrat and Republican and Independent, do you think the 25th Amendment should be invoked? Do you think they should take Donald Trump out of office? In my humble opinion, I think they should. They should do what they should have done when January 6th happened. You know, get him out of office, get him to a doctor, get him on a regular fitness program. He should have been on a fitness program years ago. You know, and he's doing all these outlandish things, sending out the military to various cities across the country that don't agree with him. I know some of them have put a temporary stop on that. I just think what he's doing is not legal. You know, some of the things he's done is treasonous, and he should pay the price for that. Donald Trump is not a well man. I think he's got dementia going on or Alzheimer's going on. And he just looks like he's out in outer space half the time anymore. You know, and the GOP is either too stupid or not brave enough to grow a set and say, hey, you know, Donald Trump isn't well. He needs to seek medical help. Bring in the vice president. Bring in the first lady to run the country if you have to. Donald Trump isn't well. And before I get any riot act on that, let's look at the stats, okay? We had Kamala Harris. That was a worthy opponent to Donald Trump. She's 60, and he was 78 or so at the time. Now he's 79, got swollen ankles, and seems like he's out in outer space half the time. One minute you see him out there with the helicopters, and he's talking like he always does, like a big braggadocio. But most times nowadays, he talks like he's paranoid. He talks like a spoiled child. He wants to sue people that possibly broke the escalator on purpose. You know? He was saying all kinds of stupid shit. I'm going to sue the people that may have sabotaged the escalator or the teleprompter. But yet, the escalator breaks for an ordinary citizen. They can either take the stairs up, or if they can't use the stairs, they take another elevator. But Marlena didn't look one bit bothered by the escalator breaking down. She totally picked up her feet and walked up those stairs by herself, leaving Donald behind, him looking like a rabbit in the headlights. So, I'm going to end this video now. I want to hear your opinion. Do you think Donald Trump is really, really ill? Or do you think he's using this as pity points? Or do you think that the government should evoke the 25th Amendment, get Donald Trump out of office, and put this country back to work in terms of our government? Because this shutdown cannot go on. We have people in TSA and other various branches of the military that work for the government. They need to get back to work. Families need to get paid. You know, and I heard members of our government are going to try and amend the Constitution to get rid of pay for people like presidents. So when we go into a shutdown, the president doesn't get paid and his latchkeys don't get paid. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, if our other people in the government aren't being paid, then the president should not be paid. But Donald Trump is going down a slippery slope, and it's really scary to see his decline. He rarely speaks loud on camera anymore. And when he does, it's like a temporary thing. It's like a peak and valley. Think about what happened to Robin Williams. He was a guy that was out there for everybody. Until one day he just didn't have the confidence to go out there on stage like he used to, but he didn't know why. And he would often ask his doctors, am I schizophrenic? And do I have dementia? Do I have Alzheimer's? And at the time, all the doctors were saying no, no, and no. But when they tested Robin's brain after his death, they found out he had Lewy body dementia throughout every area of his brain. So, yeah. I think Donald Trump has something either between Alzheimer's or dementia. I want to hear your opinions. We really need to start talking about this. And in my humble opinion, Donald Trump has no right to talk about fitness tests when he doesn't have the butch body that he claims to have. You know, he's severely overweight. He eats nothing but McDonald's and Diet Cokes. So you know his health isn't good. Well, give me your 2 cents, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope to hear your opinions, and we could start this conversation. And if you notice these symptoms in your relative, get them to a doctor. Get them checked out. You know, people that are over 50, every year they have to do the thing with the clock, the 3 words test, and some other type of cognitive tests every year to check your memory. I have to do that now that I'm over 50. But it's important that you do that. It lets your doctor know how your brain health is doing. So, yeah. It's like my neighbor that used to live across the street from me, the lady I had once talked about. She lived in her house for well over 50 years, and she just recently moved into a special care facility, assisted living, if you want to call it that, because her niece thinks that she is getting a Alzheimer's or dementia. So the niece helped my neighbor Peggy move out of her house into a special care facility. I miss Peggy every day because she would often look out for me and I would look out for her. So, yeah. Losing your faculties is no fun. And I'm not taking any joy in him losing his faculties. You have to take a look at the big picture. Is his quality of life up to par with what should be for a president of this United States? And in my opinion, no. He is not well. He needs to seek treatment. And maybe it's time for him to step down and retire into the night. Enjoy whatever years you have left. You know? Well, that's what I'm going to say on this, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll get back on here in about another day, maybe 2. I got to get a nap. I'm tired and I'm a little bit thirsty and I need to get some sleep. I've been up since about 2:30 this morning. So, yeah, I'm baked. But when I close this video out, check on your neighbors. And if you feel something isn't right with your body, go to your doctor and get it checked out. It doesn't make you a weak person for doing so. But people like Donald Trump, he needs to go to the doctor and get a good, honest workup, not by what Donald Trump says. I'm talking about going to a real doctor's office and getting checked out by a true professional doctor. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I'll talk at you later. Have a good week, and I'll be back on here by Thursday or Friday. Have a good night, everybody.